Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Gable.
Hello, everybody.
Ruben Bressler.
Good evening, friends. How are we doing?
Oh, it is Wednesday night once again.
Thank goodness.
Thank the goodness.
Among things that I do during the week, this is maybe the only one that tells me that I'm still alive and that time is moving forward.
Time is, in fact, charging onward, and we have a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com up for grabs. Exclamation mark raffle in the chat, but first subscribe so you can get two chances to win.
Subscribe first, get two chances. Don't subscribe, get one chance. The math doesn't work out on that.
It don't work out. It's a bad math, let me tell you. So, all right. Just get started here, as we do, with our first pick. Wizards, it comes and it goes. It ebbs and it flows. For as much as you have an issue with The Walking Dead and The Walking Dead being black bordered, and it's got this weird different symbol, but that's not really enough, and then there's the characters The Walking Dead that people don't like, and here we go to the exact opposite. We have Secret Lair Extra Life 2020 was revealed.
The cuteness is real.
Which is
revealed on Monday.
Beautiful. I love it.
It's beautiful, and all the cards are good. Like, Teferi's Protection is obviously a Commander All-Star. Amulet of Vigor, Amulet of Vigor is still a thing in Modern right now. Yep. Collected Company still sees a lot of play. Consecrated Sphinx, another Commander All-Star.
Consecrated Sphinx is huge.
The value of this set, I think Saffron Olive did the number crunching on this. It's over $100 for these cards.
Yeah, it is, and this will be I've got it on the screen here so you guys can see this incredible artwork. There's 4 premium foil alternate art cards in the drop. It's going to be $60 instead of the normally 30 or 40, but half of that is going to go to charity, and that's a whole other issue we can talk about here in a minute. But the 4 cards are Teferi's Protection, that's a $30 card. Amulet of Vigor, $15-ish. Collected Company, $15-ish. Consecrated Sphinx, $30. So they're giving you like $90, like just minimum, like easy minimum of cards for $60. Mm-hmm. This is going on pre-order at beginning 9 a.m. November 6th Pacific time through the November 9th.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, there's just no reason not to buy this.
I was just going to say,
it's tough to say no on this one.
This is an instant entry into Evan Irwin's buy this and throw it in a closet.
But that's tricky when all these cards see play. Like, it's difficult.
And this one you don't even need to throw in a closet. You can probably just flip this one pretty quickly, especially that Teferi's Protection, which is probably the best art card flavor text combo since the Diabolic Tutor.
You know me. You know I love babies and children. Yeah. And so when I woke up that morning, and that was the first thing I saw, like I was scrolling through Twitter, and I just shrieked, and I was like, oh my God. And I just covered my face, and like I couldn't believe how cute this was. And I had tweeted the image, and before I knew it, Twitter just fell in love with this card and was like, this is wholesome, Niambi, Teferi love, like this. And then there's playmats too with these on here. And just
all 4 of the arts for all 4 of these cards make good playmats too.
They do,
because a lot of the time the art just doesn't really work when it gets big like that. You want like specific kinds of art. These, not only do you get the art, but you also get that Extra Life stamp in the corner, which makes it an even more unique collector piece. I love those as like a thing that you can collect. The new sleeves and shirts that are available with adorable Ajani Extra Life are also pretty cute. I'm pretty pleased with those. I don't believe we are going to be competing in the creator campaign.
I doubt it.
Because we're not exactly...
I don't know what that is.
It's not really our bag, but what I would say is that you have here Ultra Pro making playmats for $21.99 on shop.ultrapro.com. They'll be available for limited time for the same dates, but a donation of $16 will be made to Extra Life for each playmat purchase. So that's not quite cost, as it were, in terms of what they're paying. They're getting was it $8 or of that? Is that exactly? No, they're getting $6 of that. So that's almost at cost, basically. Where Ultra Pro sort of is taking that hit, where then part of the issue was that Wizards is charging you $60 instead of normally $30 or $40, and so they're not really sort of taking a cut in there. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like if this were a $50 and they were giving $30 or $35 of it.
But this is them testing the waters, as you mentioned, I think during the pre-show on Monday, which is they can dip their toe in and say, hey, would you pay $60 for
$90 worth of stuff?
Secret Lair? Mm-hmm. Would you pay $90 for $120 worth of? Like they're just going to keep, turning up the temperature until the frog is boiling. You know what I'm talking about? They're going to keep testing the waters, and with charity is a great way to do it.
It is,
because half the proceeds are going to go to Extra Life, which D&D and Magic the Gathering from Wizards of the Coast have a huge relationship with, have for a long time. It's a great cause, and so I think that this is just a Hall of Fame product. This is just a great. With the stepping in it with the Secret Lair Walking Dead, this is a great rebound. This is a spectacular product. The value is there. I can't imagine anyone being terribly upset with what is in it, with what is available.
Well, look,
what happened afterward is different.
Look,
people were upset about it. I mean, there are people who feel like they're not donating enough.
Oh, that's true.
That's a thing, and
right. They're not. Again, that's what I was saying. They're not sort of taking a cut out of their end of it. They're still making $30.
I will say that I wish that you had to donate $18 instead of $16 because I'm Jewish, and whenever you give a check for a bar mitzvah, it's 18 because that's chai. That means life, and that's so when you give.
Okay, that's
today.
Life, I am learning so many things.
When you give money for a bar mitzvah, what you're supposed to do is give 18 or 36, anyway.
Well, look, and there's some, in the chat here, just like they feel like they're being sort of manipulated by Wizards by charity. I understand
they absolutely are.
And that's what they're doing here. That is the song and dance. That is the marketing that they're using for this. This is marketing. You have to understand, there's the guy behind the curtain that's saying, hey, look at the charity stuff. Please buy my wares. That's okay. I think another thing that sort of the way that Wizards sees a lot of the stuff is, and we ran into this certainly with The Walking Dead, is that they feel a lot of times it's like, we're just bringing like cool cards to people. We're just bringing cool promos. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting paid for it, but at the same time, doesn't everybody like these cool pictures and like these cool arts and like these special versions?
It's tough for me to watch the Good Morning Magic where they talked about this and be like, seeing it as a grift.
Right, and being cynical about it, right? And being totally...
It's tough for me to watch Gavin explain it and then be like, yeah, this is underhanded. It's like I can't be that cynical.
Like when Mike Turian is getting like overclamped, like he's getting
MTG effect.
Right. Like I've known Mike for a long time. Like the man's getting emotional for real. That's not made up. Like he likes helping kids through this. Wizards enjoys doing these things. You don't have to be 100% cynical about it. It's okay to recognize that it's marketing. They're selling a product, but we can't help some kids too. Like literally, they're giving you profit in the box.
Yeah.
And there's nothing underhanded about it.
This is them being good. If there's a such thing as a good capitalist, this is them being good capitalists.
I mean,
they're doing charity.
Right.
They're giving some to charity, not all.
Right.
Maybe not enough, but more than most.
And yes, it can be used as a tax break. Yes, it's the same thing that happens when Target rounds up your bill and you say okay, and Target takes that and donates as charity.
Yeah, but you don't get collected companies from Target.
Right. You don't get $90 worth of cards or whatever out of it either. So yes, there are goods and bads. Not everything is a shade of gray. But all I know is
ugly.
Yeah, then it got
the good, the bad, the ugly.
Then it got weird. What? Aaron, tell me what happened.
So, like a lot of people, I fell in love with Teferi's Protection. I loved the cute little neon beyond the card. And there were other people that, enjoyed Niambi as well. Unfortunately, they enjoyed putting her in card art. There was at least one card that I saw where this art had been used in Fling. Yeah. Implying that you were flinging the baby.
Throwing the baby.
There were reports of her being put in Tividar's Crusade, which is a pretty ghastly card to begin with. And just all sorts of, rumors kept popping up about altars that were showing up and, that this art was being used in. And it was just... the usual suspects, of course, and so that's what the community's been talking about lately is this kind of undercurrent of racism because you don't see this when a white baby is used or a white child is used, but why are we using the black child and putting her in Fling when we didn't do it for Blessed Spirits or any other card art that we've seen through the years that's had a white child, and so it was proliferated throughout the Judge Discord, the Judge Academy Discord, and so they've been trying to clean up that mess as well. Sort of the the racism that's occurring there, and
And
people are just really confronting some painful truths over the last couple of days.
Right, like if it needs to be said, racism is terrible. It has no place in the game. It should not be tolerated at all. This is us calling it out if we need to call it out. It's awful. Someone wrote in the chat like it isn't as weird as much as it's awful. Absolutely, for me, it's weird as in odd, not as in like this is just strange. No, this is terrible crap, and I wish it didn't happen. And I hate that we even have to discuss this. It's ridiculous in 2020 that we're still doing this.
I feel like this is first of all, of course this is terrible. Of course whoever made this should feel awful. This is something that very clearly came from that underbelly of the internet and then bubbled up through the usual suspects, your Reddits, your Discords, whatever. But then it kept bubbling, and usually it doesn't bubble into, polite society quite as effectively as this one did and as quickly as this one did. So this is obviously a very terrible thing. Right. I also don't think we would be having this discussion during a normal year because we would be talking about other things. This would not have exploded the way it is because people would have been on Discord less. There would have been less proliferation from the internet side of things. It still would have been awful, and we still would have talked about it.
I
but it wouldn't have exploded as fast.
You're also ignoring, the social progress that's taken place this year. This has really been, the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd and everything, that all has exploded this year, and that has made people so much more aware of everything. And so I think it is a combination of people being home more, people being more bored, and they're spending time on these, networks and doing these things. But I also think people are just more aware before where, even when it comes to the culture, even when we talk about leaks, 2 years ago, we were at Las Vegas, we were at GP Las Vegas, or 3 years ago, and you guys were defending leaks. You guys were like, leaks are fine, actually. And I was the only one that was like, maybe we shouldn't be covering leaked cards. And now you look at where we are as the culture, and that is taboo. Most people agree that leaks are bad. And so, I think that the culture is just in a different place than it was before, where maybe a couple years ago, we've all seen the gif of, Mufasa flinging little Simba, over the canyon. And, I think we've all kind of laughed at that at some point. And, there was a time where that might have been funny, or you might have chuckled at that, or we might have just, made jokes like that. But, where we are now, people are more aware of these things. And people realize the implications of them and the underlying causes of them. And that's why this is really landing with a thud.
And the other thing is that when we know now what leaving a door ajar will do. Mm-hmm. You've got to close it off at the start, because if you let even a little bit through, everyone comes storming through.
Right.
The door.
Well, this one little joke. That's okay, right? We're just it's all lulls here, guys. It's just a little racist lull, And like, no, man, it's not funny. It's not cool. It's not okay. This is the same garbage that came from like the masculinity, the toxic masculinity stuff. It's all jokes, dude. We're just blah blah blah. No, you're just being awful because you just stop being awful.
Jokes are only jokes when they're funny for everyone. Otherwise, it's just bullying.
Mm-hmm. And that's gross. And so, Judge Academy, they made a statement linked in the show notes. I'll put it here in the chat.
Which was a good,
good
again,
statement. They're absolutely not welcome any of this stuff in the Judge Academy, and that's fantastic. We appreciate the swift response, and of course should be explained and.
Aaron, thoughts on apology?
It's a start.
You're our apology master.
You're the apology grader.
I think where people are at right now, though, is they want action. They don't want your thoughts and prayers. They want to know what's the outcome of this. What happened to the people who created this? What happened to the people who promoted this? That's what people want to see. And so I think until something comes of these discussions, until people are able to see the fruits of it, they're not really going to be satisfied.
Right. Like, when a pharmacist judge says, I want at least a suspension, I can definitely see that as well. It's just something.
For the person that posted it?
Who posted? Like, who promoted it?
Wait, we're going to suspend the person that posted it to the judge Discord.
I don't know. Did they create it, or were they just sharing it?
I think that this was found somewhere else.
And then and it's also, I guess, the question of tone, right? Are you posting it because you think it's funny, or are you posting it because, like, oh my God, this is happening? And it looks like it was the former, and that's the problem, if I'm reading the situation correctly.
Well, above my pay grade, and thank goodness, because I don't want to.
Well, we'll see what they decide to do. Okay, let's move on here to gather the townsfolk to something a lot more positive, also known as the Eternal Weekend.
Yes.
Aaron, tell us about the Eternal Weekend.
Eternal Weekend. So Eternal Weekend has been broken up into 2 parts. The Legacy Weekend was last weekend, and the Vintage part is this weekend. Ooh. So I participated in the Legacy one. I will be playing in the Vintage one as well. And the Legacy one was huge. Over 581 people played on Friday night. That is 10 rounds of Magic, people. So people signed up for 10 rounds of Legacy on Friday night. There was another event that fired, I believe, around 2 in the morning on Saturday. That one had about 481 people. And then the event on Sunday had over 682 people, I think, and gapped.
Wow,
they could not fit any more people in the event. And so, over 1,500 people signed up to play Legacy on Magic Online. The event ran incredibly smoothly. There were no technical hiccups. The only criticisms I saw around the event were that the prizes didn't scale, and so some people were a little annoyed about that, which Magic Online has come back with since then and said that they are adjusting that. I don't think they'll need that for Vintage. I don't think Vintage is going to have quite the same turnout, but it does show that they are listening. Wizards did a really good job promoting this event as well. The God accounts certainly factored into this, the fact that people can play with whatever cards they want to, and then, of course, the fact that some people had bought Legacy tokens, but by then the event was capped and they couldn't get in. But by all accounts, this was a huge event and got a lot of people talking about the future of God accounts. Is this something that people, can have on a more regular basis? And, promoting Legacy, which was perceived by some as being a dead format when, 1,500 people want to play your format, that's huge.
Only dead when they can't make money off it.
Yeah, and so it was a huge success. Like I said, Vintage is this weekend. I will be playing in the Vintage as well, so hopefully I'll see you there. And, hopefully this is a good sign for more, Legacy and Vintage content down the road.
I mean, it is. It can't be anything but, right? I mean, this has got to be the biggest... Is there anything bad that happened this weekend?
Not in regards to Eternal Weekend.
I mean, Death and Taxes did really well, which is pretty bad.
Sure,
which is whatever. Your metagame's whatever.
If mono white control is the biggest problem in your
not just format,
but in your weekend.
Look, all I'm saying,
it's so funny that Wizards gives you a God account, and Wizards is like, okay, people, you can play with any Magic card you want to.
Well, I want to play with Planes.
Were like, you know what I want to do? I want to play Basic Planes.
Basic Planes, please.
Well, I can't play it in any other format, so...
Wow. Oof. Ouch. All I'm saying is I want Wizards to pay attention to the fact that there are multiple sort of subscription services at this point. They're not just, cardhoarder.com that sponsors us, but Mana Traders came out with new tiers for themselves of $10 a month, $35 a month, $60 a month, $100 a month. Wizards, you could make $100 a month to just give people all the cards. Like, it has been established that there are price points that people are willing to pay in order to sort of rent or loan. That's the same thing. There's no difference there. And I can't imagine we're not going to reach a point where at some point, I think, where Wizards is like, sure, like you get to play with all the cards in Constructed. You still have to pay for limited events or whatever, and you can't trade any of it, but otherwise, go nuts and have fun.
I think it also carries over into other events because the way the God accounts are set up, you get to keep them until the Wednesday after your event. And so that means more people are playing leagues. I played in a Vintage League tonight that had 230 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the Vintage Leagues normally cap out at like 100. So there are more people. Not only are they paying for the event itself, they're paying that $25 for the Legacy or Vintage, but then they're going on to pay, $10 a pop and playing in these leagues and, playing in these preliminaries, which are, I think, another 25, I think, to play in. And so that's trickling down into other areas of the game. Like the God accounts are just so good.
We had made fun of Magic Online so much in this show.
We have. We're giving a lot of crap.
Years of this show. A lot of crap. And they've done nothing but be great this year.
They've improved
it's amazing.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like, Magic Online is the way to play Magic Online with the least bugs.
I mean, it's the way to play all the cards, almost all the cards, in one spot. And they, for like 99% of the time, work just fine, which is incredible in and of itself. It's the ugly duckling of Magic software, but it still works. And it's still its own economy. Yeah. Like, it's an economy before they realized, wait, we shouldn't let players actually run economies. We should just let us get all the money. They forgot that part. And now it's too big. It's too big to fail. Moving on here to post-ban standard. Now, Ondřej Stráský loves this format. I love this format.
I've heard nothing bad about it.
It's fantastic.
It's a good format.
They really did get rid of the problem children, because now you can play these weird aggro decks. There's these really cool enchantment-based decks.
You can play
Yorion garbage.
Yeah,
Luca.
you can play actual honest to goodness counterspells.
Yep.
You can play actual honest to goodness ramp cards.
Yes.
Like the ramp decks look like ramp decks now.
They do.
You can play mill. Are you kidding me?
I died to mill decks. Straight up mill decks.
I died to a lot of mill decks.
Like Teferi's Tutelage, Ruin Crab, mill you to death decks. Those are legitimately viable right now in Standard. That's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah.
Aggro, control, there are like weird Song of Creation combo decks that exist. Like there's and that's also a Ruin Crab deck, so don't get too excited.
Yeah, it's more of a mill
I'm
deck.
not opposed to a Ruin Crab.
Ruin Crab's great. It's just that, the floodgates have opened to all of these tier 2, tier 2.5 decks that just couldn't get anywhere close to the best stuff. But now the field has been flattened so much. There's Ondřej, I think he said he played 9 matches with 8 different decks against him. That's fantastic.
I'm just playing Genesis Ultimatum for value in my ramp deck. Like I'm playing Explosive Vegetation like a ramp deck should.
Good.
As opposed to playing these, weird mid-range decks that also ramp as a side effect with Uro and Omnath and all of this other stuff. They make sense. Like you look at them and you're like, okay, that is powerful, but good, fair Magic. I recognize what's happening. The mill decks look like blue-black, aggro control kind of situations with the flash creatures and the high toughness. And then you've got your red aggro. You've got Embercleave decks.
You still have mono red aggro.
Mono green. Like,
but
it's a good format.
Teamer Ramp, you got Celestia tokens, or Celestia counters rather, as a whole deck in and of itself.
Right.
A 4-color Urion, Esper Doom is now back. Boros Winota returned. Like all these cool decks that were just right there.
Just not quite good enough.
Are now there, and that's awesome. So I'll take it.
They got lucky that Standard with 15 cards banned and 10 other cards altered is good. They got lucky.
Good.
They didn't test this format.
They
didn't test this format in-house.
Whoever approved Companions was not testing the format, or something went wrong. I don't understand how they were like, an 8th card's fine. Whatever. It's free, right? Okay, forever. Sure. Okay. But it is something to celebrate, because just as much as we've given Magic Online crap, we've certainly given Standard as a format a hard time for being stale, broken, whatever. And
it's a good week. It's a good week for Magic.
It's a good week to play some Magic. If you want to play Magic, it's a good time. Unfortunately, if you want to play Magic in real life, we got some bad news.
If you want to do anything in real life, it's going to be a minute.
It's going to be a hot minute. Like, even at Cool Stuff games where we're trying to see if we can have any sort of open play at all, doing things like, register your play group, make sure that you're not going to go browse around and mingle with everybody. You want to be in your kind of pod. Like that. Like as a company, as a game store, we want to provide that play space. But right now, it's, it is what it is. And so when you see Star City Games say that the SCG Tour is going on, the tabletop SCG Tour is going on indefinite hiatus. Not just like temporary, as in like this is going to have to completely restart from the ground up if it's going to restart at all. So
I hope that. So first of all, I mean, obviously the SCG Tour is near and dear to my heart. It's near and dear to your heart. It's where I got my start, and it's where you started it. Yeah. So that's helpful. It has been a indelible part of the mostly the East Coast American Magic tournament scene for so long. Like it's just like, is there an SCG event this weekend?
Right.
Well, that's what we're doing. Right. It's like it became, once the big PTQs went away, that was what you did, was go to SCG events. And now, because, if everything's changing, everything is shifting, I just am very hopeful that, I can't help but think about my buddy Nick Miller, who is like the guy in the sideboard for 5 years now.
Yeah. And
if they're going on indefinite hiatus, all of the people connected with the Open Series are like, what is going to happen? So I just am hoping for the best. Everybody's getting furloughed. Everybody's getting, jobs are dropping off the map, and people are having to pick up other, things that
like
are
whatever they can find and
whatever
stuff.
they can find, essentially.
Right.
It's tough, man, and I commiserate.
Yeah.
We give SCG a lot of crap on this show too, but man, it's tough.
It's still sad to see something that we had both worked for at some point in time to make great is not happening. I mean, just gosh, now we can think back to the Halcyon days. Remember when it was the SCG event and there was a GP and it was like, who do we watch? We get to bounce between both of those live feeds. People playing live Magic, playing Legacy on camera for 10 to 12 hours on Sunday.
Yeah. Hey, the Mikesies have a category for best moment of live coverage.
Yeah.
Boy, it's going to be few and far between for options for that.
Yeah, well, there was that one time when that guy took a whiz behind the other guy playing in the big event. Be on the list.
There's probably something from January that was good.
Right.
That's about it. LSV's Burrito.
Right, hot singles in your area pop up. That was a fun one.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a good one.
How did we get here? we were talking about SCG, and now we're talking. I don't get it. When I think of SCG, I particularly think of the older formats. The SCG formats really supported Legacy at a time when Wizards was giving you less and less Legacy events, but you could still play Legacy pretty consistently on the Open Series, and you could go to an SCG event and you could play a standard main event and then maybe like a modern event the next day, and then they used to have these little 4-round challenges that were great for dipping your toe in older formats. I got my start playing Legacy in one of those. I'll never forget that. You could play Commander at a certain point. I mean, it was just no matter what format. If an SCG event came to your town, even if you didn't play the format that the main event was, you still went because there was something for you to do there, and just an indelible institution when it comes to events. Really well-run events, too, for as much as people would complain about the GPs, because that was always a crapshoot. You never knew if you were going to get pastimes or, what was that awful, the East Coast one? PES, yes.
PES.
I mean, the green. Yeah, so, you never knew if you were going to get Legion or whoever, but you knew if you got a Star City Games GP, that GP was going to be run well, and you knew that the Opens were going to be run well. You knew you were getting at least a good experience.
Man, I miss working with Jared Silva. That guy was just... Yeah.
So
he
dreamy.
Was and happens to be incredibly handsome dude.
Also dreamy.
Who also is incredibly good at his job, which is awesome.
He's like the Flynn Rider of like the Magic community.
Yeah, he is like Flynn Rider.
I'll never forget the first time I was at GP. I was at one of the East Coast GPs, and I had an issue.
This is a thirst podcast.
Oh, he's the guy in Tangled.
But so I remember I had an issue at one of the East Coast GPs where I was having issues with the VIP area where they were like carding people for some reason. And I'll never forget, he comes up to me and he like puts his hand on my back and he's like, let's go over there together. And I was like,
yes, Jared. Whatever you like, Jared.
Just melted. He's just incredible.
Yeah, give him the smolder.
Yeah, Reed Duke has that same effect where, it's like, sure, whatever you want, Reed. What's going on, man?
My God.
Like, you're the greatest, Reed. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever you want. Dude, it's awesome. So, moving on here, we're going to talk about some other stuff. The Story of Legends, A Visual History. There's a new book out by Jay Anelli, and he wrote on CoolStuffInc.com, where there's absolutely free articles every day. Every single day, every weekday, where he wrote about his experience writing Legends of Visual History, which is a new art book that apparently they've been planning since Rise of the Gatewatch, which is incredible. About 20,000 words he got to write in about all sorts of legendary creatures, 110 total. And the art book is out now, as far as I understand it. So you can get your copy right now from your local booksellers. And it was really cool kind of seeing how he talked about the concept and how he got the drafts in, the cover art and the proofs and all that stuff.
What a cool product.
Yeah. To go from zero to a book. What do
you mean Jay's never been a zero? Let's get that straight.
Well, no, I mean, from blank page to a book in your hands. You know what I mean. I'm not talking about the man. I'm talking about the book.
Just making sure.
The book. To go from blank page to a book is a very difficult process, and this is a laudable effort. $20 or $12 at your local bookseller if you want to try to go down to your local bibliographers.
You don't have to shop at a .com all the time. Go to a bookstore. They're nice.
You don't have to give Jeff
Some
Bezos
libraries
another.
are still open. They're offering curbside delivery of the books you want. So.
So maybe you can find one that way.
It's highly recommended. I love these art books. I thought that the Rise of the Gatewatch book I read it and was like, man, why isn't there more stuff like this? I could read dozens of these. This is like the exact kind of thing I want on my coffee table, and now we have one, and I'm very excited.
Very nice. All right. So to somewhat coincide with the top 10 Rebecca Gay cards coming next week from this very podcast.
Hashtag Gay Pride.
That's right. As we segue here into Rebecca Gay had mentioned on the MTG Art Market Facebook page that she is building her next Kickstarter and adding some special playmats. What would you guys like to see become available? And to be able to go through Rebecca Gay's entire sort of art library history of Magic and pick out any image that you would like to see on her playmats would be pretty incredible. So when that Kickstarter comes around, obviously we'll be talking about it. And
so do you have any opening picks of what you want? I've got a couple.
Gaia's Blessing is one of the first that comes to mind, which is always incredible.
All right. I want Carpet of Flowers. I think Carpet of Flowers would look really good as a playmat in particular.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure people are going to want, they're going to want the Path to Exile or the Bitter Blossom, but I really like that Carpet of Flowers as a. It's not too busy, It's not too. There's not too much.
Bitter Blossom, Blessing of Leeches is one of my favorite cards of all time.
I think Bitter Blossom already was a playmat at one point.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, so they're not going to reprint any of them that already were.
Carpet of Flowers is good, and she's done so many good cards. There we go. The old school Dark Ritual. I know a lot of people prefer her Dark Ritual in their Storm decks.
I mean, there's so many good ones. I would be happy with literally any Rebecca Gay art on a playmat. I mean, of Rebecca Gay cards, I've probably cast Moment's Peace the most.
Moment's Peace, incredible. Okay. I love Hanakami. Hanakami is so cool.
Hanakami's a nice one.
Oh man, so many hits.
So we'll talk more about Rebecca Gay's art in the top 10s next week.
Yeah, Pride of the Clouds and all that good stuff. Scrib Ranger, I mean, seriously, her stuff's insane. So that's great. I'm excited for it. We'll let you know what's going on. To the surprise of no one, WPN Play has been temporarily suspended in Europe, including Russia. Resuspended, as it were. They were going to not be, and now they are again.
Well, they had, we've seen pictures from Andrea Mengucci, who's been able to go to paper events, and I think we had shared pictures from a Spanish store that had found a way to, keep doing pre-releases with partitions and masks and things like that. And, their cases weren't as bad as ours for a while, but it seems like they're also entering, their second or third wave, and so, their events have had to be resuspended as well, and it's really unfortunate, because I think for those of us here, it kind of gave us something to aspire to or maybe shoot for, where it's like, oh, look, and maybe
there's a little light at the end of that tunnel.
Maybe ideas that we could borrow. You mentioned, Evan, trying to find ways to host events at your store, being able to look at that store and be like, what worked for them? And it's like, well, nothing worked.
I mean, it's getting worse. We have to face facts. A lot of
countries are getting into their second.
My state is now the
waves,
epicenter.
Yeah.
We just cracked 4,000 cases today, daily positive tests. I think it was a 50% positive rate.
We had 11K one day when we went for Florida.
So I'm looking at the situation as a diabetic person, where I'm not going to be going to any public event until a vaccine is not only available but widely used.
Right, understood to be safe and effective, yeah.
Probably not doing anything outside till next October.
Probably, I would say next summer is a good.
We're still in the first wave here, guys. We're not past the first wave in the United States. As much as we like to pretend, the pandemic isn't over, even though you're over it, right?
Well, I mean, you can see in the chart, it goes up and then down, it goes up and then down, and then we're back on the up again. I think I've seen people call it the third wave, but it's basically the fall wave, the ones that they knew were going to be bad as it was going to get colder.
We also need to see what the fall and the winter look like as more people are inside, and it coincides with flu season to see what this year's flu season looks like. Always, get those shots too.
And they're trying to give stores some resources to provide online play through webcams, organized discords and whatnot. There is this desire out there. We want this community. We are social animals. We are trying to connect with one another. The game is still existing. The game is still doing really well despite all of this happening, which, if anything, shows really the power of Magic through the fact that we can't even play with each other. We're still buying cards, interacting, using webcams, doing anything and everything we can to make sure Magic still happens.
I mean, Webcam Commander might be the format of the year. It has proliferated and exploded kind of, in my opinion, from nowhere.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, good luck to that. Let's move on to Desperate Ravings. There were a bunch of Commander Legends leaks. We're not going to talk about them because
Just
that's
a
bad.
bunch of leaks. Unbelievable
Very
amount of
messy.
leaks.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised they pushed back the release multiple weeks.
That's fair.
Like, I think the Zendikar Rising bundles just shipped to give you an idea of what's going on. Zendikar Rising was released at the end of September. It's October 21st. So, yeah, things have gotten weirdly backed up. So when collector boosters land in the wrong hands and suddenly it's on eBay and suddenly everybody's open and everything, which is ridiculous. Official previews are going to start next week. So that's going to be awesome.
We don't have an email, right?
I did not find an email. It is
When's the last
possible.
time you checked?
They come out with a list and we're on it, and I go, dude, I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
For those who don't know, we only knew about our last preview card because I saw our name on the content creators list. I had to go to Evan and be like, I didn't know that we were getting a preview card. And Evan...
Yeah. It's pretty good. But it's also a nice surprise, and it extends the joke. I mean, the joke that has happened more recently than I've potatoed my internet, and we still have a potato emote. I mean, my current apartment that I've lived in has good internet, and the place I lived before this also had good internet.
Speaking of that preview card, I posted a list to the Discord. Our card, that Cleansing Wildfire, is now seeing play in modern
modern
main
control
deck, y'all.
Well, you target your own flagstones of Trocare, and you have yourself a rampant growth.
Oh, that's so sick.
Well, I think
or
that,
a fetch
it's
land.
still just
you can
like
also
good land destruction because modern's really greedy right now. Because
you play it like it's a boom bust, essentially.
Right. It's a little boom bust for all intents and purposes, and you can manipulate it. It
draws a card.
Right, it draws a card, which is insane. So anyway, Commander Legends leaks, if don't go look for them if you don't want to find them, because they're out there.
Yeah, they're out there.
But, certainly long term have been making content for a very long time, have even delved into leaks myself at one point early in my career. It's not worth it. It's never been worth it, and it's just better for the game to not indulge in that. And if you're not in it for making the game better, what are we doing here?
Right.
I will say the cards I have seen though look amazing, and so when they're officially revealed, you're probably going to like them.
So, there is this little author that you might have heard of named Margaret Weis. And fantasy writers Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman of Dragonlance fame.
Well, Tracy Hickman is no slouch.
For sure. Well, they had a business deal with Wizards of the Coast at some point. They had contracts worked out to do a 3-book series that was going to be published. Novels going to be published over here by Penguin Publishing House or whatever, and then Wizards want to do the D&D books, and there's going to be Dragonlance back. They're going to relaunch Dragonlance, and everybody likes Dragonlance, so we got that nostalgia going on. And then all of a sudden, Wizards said, no, we're good. We're cool. We're not going to make this anymore. And they said they're not going to breach the contract that they had with them. They're just not going to approve any more drafts of books or scripts, not giving them notes to let them fix things, which they had already done like 70 plus times, because I went and actually read the whole thing. They went through and did all the changes Wizards wanted. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, here comes a phone call, a big conference call with a bunch of lawyers. And they're like, yeah, we're just not doing that. We're not going to call it breaching contract.
This reminds me of what happens in the record industry, where you can turn in an album and the record company just doesn't release it. We've seen it with like Fiona Apple and people that they're not breaking the contract, but they can just decide that they're not going to release your work. JoJo was another one. Remember Little JoJo when we were growing up, the little white girl that did R&B, and they just that's what they do. They don't release your album, but they don't break your contract, and then you're just in this weird stalemate where you can't go anywhere else because you're tied to this record company and you're just stifled.
It's so sad.
This is like
because,
a literary version of that.
I mean, for honestly, Wizards of the Coast owes a lot of its success to the success of the Dragonlance world.
The Ravenloft stuff and the Dragonlance stuff back in the day,
in the 90s. Yeah. I mean, there are 22 million books sold of the 190 novel Dragonlance franchise, of which these two authors, Weis and Hickman, have written the vast majority.
Sure.
They've been translated into over a dozen languages. And it is like the reason why TSR became so popular was Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance.
That's right.
And it's insane to me how this is just getting so mucked up in everything. It's so upsetting.
One of the things that they had mentioned during the time was that during the time in which they had canceled the work, canceled but not canceled, they were going through a big uproar. The Nick Kellman stuff had flared up again. They actually referenced A.E. Marlene's article in the lawsuit, which is kind of incredible.
Yikes.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Eden is also dropped in there as someone.
Wow.
Yeah, for real. And so that this is happening. And basically, this is a multi-million-dollar project. They were expecting to make millions of dollars. They were literally in the middle of selling the rights to the translations of the books when all of this just fell down.
So you're saying that they prevented these books from being published because of sensitivity issues? Like they didn't want it to seem like it was too sexy or too...
I have no idea. They wouldn't tell them. They wouldn't say.
They wouldn't tell them.
But
they shut it down for whatever reason.
Right, but the publishing deal of the books was reliant on Wizards doing their half and making their own products for the Dragonlance stuff. And so all this stuff was supposed to work together, and they were in the middle of book 2, and then just, oops, it's gone. And so they're suing for like $30 million plus fees.
It should be more. These are huge names.
Yeah,
these are huge.
You sound like you're stifling some freelancer. Like these people know the industry. Like they know
Margaret
better.
Weis is on the Mount Rushmore of fantasy authors.
Yeah.
Like, or currently living fantasy authors. Like, Dragonlance is a shared universe that is the size of which there isn't really in American literature. Like, this is the kind of thing that you only see in, like, China and Japan in terms of shared universes and, like, mangas and stuff like that. This is... I would not have been surprised if Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition had been all about Dragonlance as opposed to being all about Greyhawk or all about Forgotten Realms.
Jeez.
Which is... I mean, and to see it hit this wall is upsetting and shocking to me. If this were a Dungeons & Dragons podcast, this would have been the #1 story.
Right. This would have been the one thing we talked about for a very long time.
For a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, like, why in the world would you do this? This is ridiculous. It just gets to the point where, like, this is a multi-million-dollar deal that just, for no good reason, best I can tell, just stopped. And I bet Hasbro's going to be pretty pissed when they realize that this was a completely unforced error. This was not necessary and could have been a huge win for all the nerds out there.
X-Men. Yeah, X-Men is the biggest shared universe in the United States. This is pretty close to being X-Men. Like, in terms of size and scope and publications,
right,
it's pretty close.
All right, so moving on from one dumb thing to another.
Oh, good.
So Wizards of the Coast has a new program that they use to run tournaments. Originally, it was the... Right. They were usually the Wizards event reporter. And so that's been used for a very, very long time.
Sure.
And here comes the new EventLink, right? Cool. And so the EventLink is coming up, and they don't have manual pairing. And I'm like,
Okay.
So why would you need, so first of all, why would you need manual pairing? Why is that a thing, right? Well, imagine your F&M just started, and then somebody literally walks through the door 30 seconds after it starts and goes, can I jump in? And they're like, we have a buy. We'll get you in, no problem. Bop-a-dop. They manually pair the buy with the new person. You're in. It's cool. That's fantastic. With the new software, if that scenario were to happen, you'd have to repair everyone in the room. Everyone would have to get up, find their new pairing, sit back down with their new pairing.
It's not fun.
And then here comes another person 2 seconds after the round starts and said, wait, I'm here too. You can't just easily slot them in.
Happens.
Yes, you just have to say, look, you have to take a round loss. We'll see you in round 2. There's literally nothing else you can do. Or if you want to manually put someone in a certain seat because they have a disability, that's a manual pairing for all intents and purposes. And so the Wizards has been testing out the EventLink software. This stuff didn't just fall from the sky. Like, there has been event organizers running this software. If only I knew how that worked. And let me tell you, they have explained to Wizards, please, we need manual pairings. We need manual pairings. It's the #1 piece of feedback. This software is cool. It does what you want it to do, but we need manual pairings. And so Wizards, when they came back to them, they said, manual pairings just uses fraud. It's a complete fraud system. That's the only reason it's used.
What?
It's insane how they said, unfortunately, their data shows, this is literally word for word, their data showed the overwhelming use of the feature was to commit fraud, altering a pairing to match the desires of a third party instead of conforming to the expected tournament guidelines. At which point, all the judges online were like, excuse me, we don't just cheat our heads off every single event and use these manual pairings to do so. So which is it? Either was this crazy cheat-filled menagerie that we're just finding out about, or they used it like responsibly. Yes, there were some bad actors, but one of the things they kind of mentioned is like, man, programming's hard. It takes time. It costs money. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it does.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of confusion from judges on social media. You know, Ricky Hayashi had, posted something and other judges chimed in. And, just the consensus seemed to be like, why? Like, why is this really that big of a problem? Like, how did you come to this conclusion? Like, nobody seemed to understand how this came to be.
Yeah, and it just feels like one of those things where like, man, it takes a lot of time. We got to pay programmers, and we got to really work on this feature that might not be used all that much. Yeah, but when it's used, it's really important that it's there. Like all these little tiny sort of hedge cases. And again, what they told Wizards over and over, we're not trying to cheat. These are legitimate reasons we want to have manual pairings. And as far as I know, it's just not going to happen. And that's the thing.
This is above my pay grade. This is not a part of Magic that I am an expert in. But It certainly, from the way you're describing it, sounds incredibly sus. Like, it sounds like they just didn't want to do the work and instead are offering this other explanation.
Right.
That could be just because of the way you're framing it.
Well, I mean, pharmacist judge here is saying it's the doublespeak. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, it's...
The defense doesn't work.
Right. The defense is it's all fraud. But what? Yeah. Then it was all fraud to begin with?
Right. It was all fraud to begin with. It's been fraud for 20 years.
What?
I don't get it.
And again, I will note that they have found people doing fraud with this software in that way. I'm not saying it don't happen. I'm just saying that that's not the reason that was existing and why it was important. Not to just let people...
No, sure, people are going to do fraud.
It's just
regardless of what the system is.
But then punish those people. Don't punish everybody and don't change don't change everything so significantly to where... people who are already you mentioned the folks who need certain seating, and somebody in the chat said that too. It's not worth punishing everybody just because some people did it wrong.
Right, and it's just weird, and it's like you can't. I don't know. Whatever. We talked about it. Let's move on. Okay, going infinite. There's Commander Legends teasers that I always enjoyed. Mark Rosewater drops a few of them out there.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff, like a card that lists 14 creature abilities.
Oh, hello. A card that returns 3 different card types from the graveyard to the battlefield.
See? There you go. You will be tagged multiple times when it's unveiled. Don't worry.
Yeah, let me see a couple. I want to make sure that some of the hints were the ones that I saw referenced.
Oh, sure.
So, multiple creatures of siblings of previous legends.
Nice. There's a legendary creature horse.
Awesome. Perfect.
A legendary creature rabbit wizard.
That was the one I was looking for.
That's what I'm talking about.
Rabbit wizard is a nice one.
Yes.
I'm really excited for the Vizardrix legend.
Nice.
I'm also a big fan of Turtle Shaman. Just because I'm a big fan of Turtle Shaman. I just think that's a great combination of creature types together. Excellent. A legendary creature that shares 4 of the 5 words in its name with 3 other legendary creatures. Now, this one you can puzzle out. This is going to be like, because there's only one thing that it could be. And that's Kodama of the something tree.
Ah, yes.
So it's going to be Kodama of the West tree or something.
Sure. So this is one of those like really cool kind of hint things. This used to show up in magazines back in the day. Just some cool things to get to talk about at the set and some things you got coming. So whatnot. I'll take a legendary elephant warrior coming our way. That's going to be great.
That is also a nice one.
Moving on here to some splash damage. First of all, if you have been to Philadelphia, if you've been to GP Philadelphia, if you've been to PAX Unplugged, if you've been to any event in Philadelphia, any opens and whatnot, let me tell you, you have been to the Reading Market or you have been missing out on life.
Terminal Market.
The Reading Terminal Market.
Reason to go to Philly event.
It really is.
It's also in danger of closing due to everything that's going on right now. So they started a GoFundMe and said for 128 years, the Reading Terminal Market has been one of Philadelphia's most beloved icons, home to nearly 80 independent mom and pop businesses under one roof. The market is authentic, diverse, and delicious, just like Philadelphia. And they are in danger. This is a market that thrived on tourism, which obviously nobody's traveling right now. It's also not spaced out. If you've ever been there, it's very cramped in a good way, but all of the stores and all of the shops are very close together. You're going to be in close quarters with people. It's very hard to socially distance here. So a lot of things are not lining up for this, but this is an iconic, I remember every time I've gone to an event in Philly, we would get up really, really early in the morning and go to the Amish place for breakfast sandwiches. They made these really unique sandwiches there that you can only get here. And that's what I think of. And I just can't imagine, if events start up again and there is one in Philly, I can't imagine going to an event in Philly and not going to the market.
If there was ever any city where I was going to choose to play an aggro deck, it was Philadelphia.
So you can get out.
So that I could get out, get over to 4th Street Cookie, get over to Herschel's, East Side Deli, get me a Reuben.
Oh, man.
A Reuben
get you a me, right?
Get you a me. I'm delicious. Get you, go to the Old City Coffee,
oh, man.
All of the places. The day stalls were insane.
An institution, no doubt about it. So they're trying to raise $250,000. Note this is charity.gofundme.com.
Which is a low number.
It is a low number. I feel there's getting maybe some help somewhere else. But regardless, if you can pitch in, they are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You do get the receipt for that if you want to put it on your taxes and all that stuff. But this to me is just like, man, I cannot imagine a world where you go to Philadelphia and you cannot hit up the Ready Market. It is just...
It's walking distance from the tournament
It's
site,
incredible.
So.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
Insane.
So, all right. Aaron, tell me a little bit about what Twitch is doing. Twitch has just decided to do some stuff.
Yeah. So several prominent streamers from the Magic community and outside of the Magic community stated that they received an email from Twitch on October 20th, which was yesterday, basically telling them that their content had been deleted, either clips or videos, because of DMCA violations, which typically means that you've played some music that you're not supposed to, that was copyrighted. The problem with this is that these people weren't given an opportunity to contest that. Normally, this is something that you can contest. Graham from Loading Ready Run, for example, said that his channel has been regularly hit by DMCA complaints and that he has contested a lot of them, and that's why his channel has been able to exist and to thrive the way that it has. So imagine waking up in the morning being told that you've done something wrong, you don't know what it is, and your content is just gone. And then because you don't know what the problem was, you're then forced to sort of nuke everything else that you have just so that you're on the safe side. And so people like Amy the Amazonian, Gabby Sparts, affiliates were even affected. People who haven't streamed in over a year, people who were adamant that they don't play music, they weren't taking song requests. You don't know. I mean, for all we know, you could have been singing. Some people, I like to sing without even any music. And so you might just be playing a game, sing, and you've just violated something. And so, people were feeling very betrayed by this. They feel like they deserve more information. And, I think Caleb Durward was streaming tonight, and he specifically said no song requests, which if you're a fan of Caleb, you go a lot of times for the music and you go for that. And, people are taking this seriously. Not that they weren't before, but they're even, more cautious because you don't know.
Well, the guidelines are so murky. All of this was done very cloak and dagger, not transparent at all. And so people, if they're going to ban indiscriminately, well, I guess we're just going to have to be overly cautious. Which sucks.
I mean, and it does mention someone it felt like a sort of a flex. You know what I mean? Twitch is like, we can do this now. Like, we have the power. Or go through and cut them out.
It's not going to affect us a ton.
Nah.
It's not going to affect us being. Obviously, it's going to affect Magic Mike's zero because we don't have any magic.
We just yammer. It's
but
fine.
It's going to affect Magic slightly less. But these people that do streaming for a living, their entire library, some of these folks have had their entire careers removed from their channels. And that's sad.
Or even you feeling like you have to do that, where so you've seen, videos A, B, and C be affected. You don't know what you did, so because you're afraid of that happening again, you now have to go into your own archives and delete memories. And, when people take clips of things, those are moments that your fans have chosen. Those are moments that you've chosen. And now you have to go in there and you're not even sure. So you're just arbitrarily deleting. Like, it sucks.
It's sad. But that said, I want to turn the corner here to the finisher. The newest star in esports is here, with nearly 439,000 concurrent viewers at one point on just her channel. New York representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez played Among Us, leave me alone, with about a dozen of her closest and furthest friends to encourage young viewers to visit iwillvote.com. And it worked, as it was the #1 driver to that website for the week. Big gamer names like Pokimane, Jacksepticeye, and Hasanabi joined the New York Congresswoman, Minnesota Congressional Representative Ilhan Omar, YouTube music cryptid Corpse Husband, and several others, coming in just behind Ninja's famous Drake stream and Shroud's triumphant return to Twitch from Mixer. Representative Ocasio-Cortez mentioned near the end of the stream that she might try to stream again soon for another I Will Vote promo. So tell me, what should AOC stream next, Ruben?
Well, I know the notorious AOC mostly as a League of Legends player. She's always very proud to show off her screenshots of hitting bronze, like I am when I 7-2 a Zendikar draft. And League is still the biggest draw on Twitch. So I'm excited to see her take it to the news desk for LOL Worlds alongside Shokes and Quickshot. And of course, showcasing Alexandria Tack Damageo Carry Cortez.
That's a lot.
Wow.
AOC
Aaron?
ADC, am I right?
Well, the most watched category on Twitch in the month of October is perhaps surprisingly the just chatting. And Twitch has just launched watch parties, integrating Prime Video with the Amazon-owned Twitch extension. So I'm excited to see her host some of her favorite shows and movies with 500,000 of her fans and voters. Maybe something a little lighter and more positive with a better political situation. You know, like Idiocracy. But at least President Camacho listened to the experts.
It's true. Say what you will about Idiocracy, but President Camacho at least listened to his advisors.
Nice. Well, I know it's going to be a tough sell, but I'm the Magic Show guy. I've been making MTG content since before AOC could rent a car. And as you know, the kids love nothing more than a trading card game from 1991, turn-based chess-like action and methodic strategic complex gameplay. So I'm looking forward to the Congresswoman joining on for a stream of the world's greatest collectible card game, Runeterra Masters 2020.
You got us in the first half, I'm not going to lie.
Tell you what, and that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. And do visit iwillvote.com if you don't have a voter plan. It has been proven, as AOC mentioned on the stream last night, that if you have a voter plan, you are much more likely to vote. So if you don't have a plan, figure it out. Make sure that you're registered. You're still on the registrar. If you're going to vote early, if you're going to mail in, if you're going to go to a local polling place, plan ahead, especially if you're going to wait in line. Bring some water, maybe some snacks, especially during this pandemic we're all living in. Be safe.
Wear a mask.
And let your voice be heard.
That's right. Wear a mask, wash your hands, be safe. We love you. All right, over to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or just join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everyone.